Our next speaker is Mr. KTR Ramarao. He's a cabinet minister in the government of Telangana. He's the Minister, IT Industries, NRI Affairs, and Urban Development. Telangana is special not only because it's the 29th state of India. It has got the semblance of a Silicon Valley. It has got the Genome Valley. It has got the T-Hub, which is the largest incubator for startups. Mr. K.T. Ramarao is also the son of K. Chandrasekhar Rao, the first Chief Minister of Telangana. He also holds a Master of Science in Biotechnology from the University of Pune, and he understands business equally well, being an MBA in Marketing and E-Commerce from the City University of New York. So I'd like to call on stage now the guest of honor, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, to deliver the special note.
Good morning. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Sukumar. Thank you, Jason, for this opportunity. Yes, I come from the state of Telangana, which is the youngest state in India today. In fact, it was formed about 2.5 years ago. And I keep calling it the startup state of India because we are the youngest and we have been doing some things with the bent of mind of a startup. There's opportunity to speak at Emtech India, which is a collaborative effort of Mint and MIT. It's a great opportunity because it not only gives me an opportunity to present my state and the potential of opportunities there, but also overall perspective from a government side on what it is that a country like India needs at this point in time. We live in a very interesting time. We live in the times of Internet of Things. We live in a world where your refrigerator can talk to your washing machine, which in turn can talk to your Echo, which in turn can talk to your car, etc., etc. The list goes on. Very smart machines which can talk to each other, collaborate with each other, work with each other, and make do with a lot of things that normally would not have been possible. We also live in the times of technology, where governments are talking about smart cities. Governments are talking about smart governance. Governments are talking about leveraging smart technologies. The Prime Minister talks about Startup India, Skill India, Digital India, a bunch of other initiatives that have also been launched. But the question is, a country like India, 1.32 billion population, more than 70% still dependent on agriculture or allied activities. While the country has more than 100 million phones, 100 billion phones, 100 crore phones, or 1 billion phones, out of which 40% are smartphones. But are we ready for the next big technology breakthrough to come from India? Are we ready to leverage technologies to create a social impact? Our Chief Minister, Honorable Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao, he's not a technologist himself. He's a man who comes from the grassroots. So whenever I talk to him about technology, whenever I tell him the power, the ability of technology to change things, he only has one thing to say. He says, what is the outcome? What is the expected outcome? Can this make a visible social impact? Can this actually help a man on the street? Can you actually bring about a social change by way of whatever technology you refer to? If the answer is yes, then I'm all for it. If it's no, then it's futile. Any technology, for that matter, unless it brings about a perceptible change and has a perceptible social impact, we can talk of a lot of things. I think we were just talking about Li-Fi. Wireless emissions through LEDs. Fantastic, great concept. Some countries have implemented it. Sao Paulo, South Africa, Johannesburg, etc. We've tried it. In fact, we wanted to do it at Hyderabad as well. But we realized that it was way too expensive. Point I'm trying to make is, unless technology actually also has a social angle, unless it is also having the social impact perspective embedded within its idea, I don't think it's worth the kind of effort that we put into. The second thing I'd also like to point out, a lot of times in a federal republic like India, each state operates in silos. Each of us operate in silos. We don't really know what the other state is doing, unfortunately. But events such as this give us an opportunity to come, to interact with some of the young, smart minds and extraordinarily intelligent people learn from you. Our core belief is, as a state, that none of us in the government, none of us in our state, no single individual or institution is a repository of wisdom. We believe in learning from best practices, wherever they are, in some other government, in some other state, or from some other country, making sure we pick up these best practices and actually converting them into the next practices which are applicable in our context, in our state's context as well. In fact, a couple of initiatives which we were very proud of as a young state. Hyderabad and Telangana are identified as having some core strengths, especially in information technology sector. We are the #2 destination in India for software services, next to Bangalore. Hyderabad is known to be home. If you look at the top 5 most valued technology companies in the world today, 4 of them out of the top 5 have chosen Hyderabad as their largest base outside of their headquarters. That would include Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and if you also look at the top 10, we would also have Amazon. So we have out of the top 10, 5 institutions, 5 large technology enterprises setting up shop in Hyderabad, which is their largest base. Now why did this happen? Why have all these tech companies started looking at the huge potential in India, and why Hyderabad? Why? Because today India offers the one thing that the world seems to be missing. The huge potential, the huge opportunity of the young Indians, the human resources, the high value, not so costly value proposition of the human resources. And Hyderabad has that in plenty. And that's one singular reason. If I have to put out one singular reason as to why Hyderabad has been the place of choice, I think I would say the talent pool, the people that reside there, and the quality of life Hyderabad offers. But what is it that we are doing as a state to further this mission of digital India, or digital Telangana as we call it? We're doing 2 things. Because the way I see it, this whole idea of digitization is great. But for it to actually be successful, you need 2 components. One, of course, the infrastructure. Infrastructure which goes right to the grassroots, right to every household. 2, of course, the digital literacy aspect of it. With respect to digital infrastructure, as a state, we've done something very novel. In fact, about 2 years ago, we've embarked on a very large mission with a $7 billion investment outlay, with a very ambitious agenda of wanting to give a portable drinking water connection to each and every house in Telangana. That would be about 10 million houses in the state of Telangana. When we started working out and started laying out the plans, we realized that we would be laying nearly 150,000 kilometers of new pipeline. Essentially, we would be trenching, digging up the entire landscape of Telangana. Then we said, why can't we synergize? Why can't we combine other things into the same trench? So we started thinking of multiple things. But the first thing that came to the fore, besides obviously the water pipeline, is fiber optic network. So in the next 18 months, Telangana will not only be the first state in India to give a portable drinking water connection to each and every house, we'll also be the first state in the country to give a proper broadband connection to each and every household in our state. Now imagine the possibilities. Imagine the possibilities. Once the last mile is bridged, once the last mile connect is established, imagine the possibilities that can be unleashed. E-commerce, e-health, e-education, a bunch of other things that you guys know much better than I do. In fact, I was telling somebody the other day, some eminent gentleman who I met, I said, sir, I think this will help us leapfrog from where we are to maybe about 15 years ahead. He smiled and he said, no, I think this will help you pole vault. Leapfrog is a very small word. This will help you pole vault from where you are, possibly to at least 100,000 miles. So that's the kind of agenda we've set for ourselves. Now, the other thing we've also started doing simultaneously is digital literacy. In fact, Telangana is today the #1 state on electronic transactions, digital transactions. A lot of people talk about demonetization and the aftermath. Telangana today is the #1 state in terms of electronic and digital transactions across the 29 states in India. We have started a very aggressive campaign to promote digital literacy, to ensure that at least one single person from each and every house actually is converted to digital literacy. Now, the other thing we also started focusing on is innovation and entrepreneurship. Yes, India is known as the back office of the world. India is a services hub for the rest of the world. But today's young Indians are certainly wanting more. And we as a new government, we as a young government, as I call us startup state, we seized the opportunity. What have we done? As part of my job, I speak to several youngsters. When I speak to them, I see this burning desire, fire in the belly to do more. In fact, I think just about a couple of years ago, a lot of these valuation games, a lot of these takeovers, when they happen, I read them with interest. When WhatsApp was bought by Facebook at a valuation of $19 billion, I almost fell off my chair. I said, I use WhatsApp on a daily basis. I never thought it was so expensive. I never thought it was so valuable. I was confused. But while I was confused, let me tell you, my friends, rest of the young Indians that I interact with on a regular basis were enthused, were kicked. They were upbeat about the possibility of coming out with their own invention, of coming out with their own idea, which can change the world, which can be the next big thing in the world. So such is the level of optimism in India, especially young India today. So therefore, to leverage on this, we've launched India's largest technology incubator called the T-Hub in our own city of Hyderabad. T-Hub today brings about a fantastic convergence, a brilliant marriage of business mentorship, technology mentorship, and legal and IP mentorship, all facilitated by the government in a single premises. Today, it is home to more than 200 startups which are looking extremely bright and which are looking extremely good. And in fact, we've also launched a program called the T-Bridge, which connects our startups to the Valley ecosystem in Silicon Valley. It connects young startups from India to elsewhere, and also those startups back into India. The reason why we've done this, the example that I gave you a minute ago, WhatsApp. Imagine for a second, hypothetically, if a young Indian youngster had come up with a product like WhatsApp, right here in India, right here in Delhi, would it have been valued at the same amount, $19 billion? I suspect the answer is no. So it does matter. We do say that technology creates a great level playing field, the world is flat, etc., etc. But physicality of where you're located, physicality of where you have to be present, and to pitch to the right kind of venture capital also matters. So therefore, we've created a program called T-Bridge, which facilitates any startup wanting to go from India to the United States or to Israel or to Germany. We've forged partnerships with multiple countries across the world. And we want our Indian youngsters to be able to tap into these markets as well. Now, when I talk about venture capital, yes, venture capital is the key, of course, for getting all these startups going, for getting all these young minds revved up and taking them to the next level beyond the valley of death. Now, again, I was pitching this idea of T-Hub and T-Fund, as I call it, to a large businessman who heads a large business conglomerate. I said, sir, I think venture capital is the key. He laughed and he said, no, for India, adventure capital is the key. It's not venture capital that I'm looking at. I think what you need to be doing in India today is a bit of an adventure. So therefore, my request through this podium also is, a country like India needs a lot more in terms of not just coming out with the right kind of products, but also customizing them to our requirements. In fact, as a Minister for Information Technology and Municipal Administration, since Government of India started talking about smart cities, I get a lot of people pitching to me. A lot of people come and say, you know, I have a fantastic smart city product. Why don't you use it? I was there at a presentation about 6 months ago. There was this large international company which came in, and which myself and Jayesh, Naveen, we were all part of this presentation. So they went on and on. They said, you know, I could send you an alert if somebody abruptly cuts into your lane while you're driving. I can send you an alert to your command control center. I said, fabulous. Why don't you send me an alert when somebody is actually heading towards me on a one-way street? That gentleman looked puzzled. He said, why would you need that? I said, welcome to India. Unfortunately, that's how we drive. Point I'm trying to make is, we live in a very different kind of world. A product that works in Barcelona, a technology that suits California, will not fit India. I think we have to find our own recipes. We have to find our own formulas. We have to customize, Indianize these solutions so that they make sense in the Indian context. Now, therein lies the big opportunity, and since you're calling it Emtech India, I think the focus of technology is great, but to customize it to the Indian requirements, to the 1.3 billion people requirement, is the biggest challenge that every tech entrepreneur in this room is going to face. Because we can come out with products that will rock the world, that can rock the world. But the fact of the matter is, if you want them to work in India, I think you have to throw in that bit of added masala, which makes it more Indianized, which will give it the Indian flavor, and which will make it work in the Indian context. So I have a lot of things to say, but I'll just conclude by saying this. A lot of people have been talking about how artificial intelligence is going to take away jobs. A lot of people are also talking about the change of guard in the United States and how that is going to impact India as well. I do agree with it partially, but I do believe also that if India and Emtech start focusing on the new sectors, animation, gaming, multimedia, entertainment, cybersecurity, design engineering, data analytics, data centers, the opportunities are plenty. The opportunities for governments to create jobs in all these sunrise sectors are plenty. So let's not be worried. India has one thing that nobody else in the world has. India today has the largest workforce on the planet, or in fact, think force, as I call it, think force on the planet. 65% of Indians today are below the age of 35. Now, therein lies the biggest strength of our country, to really offer technologies, to really offer solutions for the next generations to come. Thank you very much, Mint, for this opportunity.
Mr. Rao, I'll request you to be back on stage. So I think one of the couple of takeovers is that governments need to provide an ecosystem for digital, and you need to think global but act local. I'd like to call Sukumar back on stage to felicitate Mr. Rao. Just a small little